So I'm super excited that you are joining me today. I have some great stuff to share with you about getting rid of clutter for good in an area that is like really prone to having consistent clutter, like returning clutter. You organize it and it comes back and just can't figure it out regardless of what you do, right? Okay, so having an organized home, office, or space in the home has very little to do with how well you can declutter or organize. So most people miss the most important steps when trying to get some space organized, and that's really assessing the area and using this assessment to help create simple routines around keeping the area organized. And so we're often inundated with like videos on social media, YouTube videos, blogs with like how-tos on organizing a desk or a bookshelf or a cabinet or something. And we think that literally that's all you need to actually organize whatever space you're organizing, right? Well, Melissa Moore from Find Your Balance Therapy, she said, I needed to start in one spot, get it organized, and then move to the next area. This is not typically what you see on like blog posts and videos. Most of the time they're saying organize all the books or something like that. But this definitely helped to decrease the feeling of overwhelm and gave me motivation to keep going with one area being done already. So my goal here today is to give you these tools to get your space organized, keep it that way. The two biggest steps that most people miss, we're going to go over those two steps. I'm going to walk you through step one completely so you can actually do it now. I'm going to show you how to do step three, as this step is going to be different for everybody and everybody's and your individual organizing projects. And then I'm going to give you an opportunity to put this into practice. Okay, so I know firsthand how incredibly frustrating it can be to feel like you're making efforts to like live in a home where you don't have to like scramble before guests come over to kind of clean it up. But just overall has less clutter, less stuff that you just don't need or want. And after all the attempts that you've made, the clutter just keeps coming back. So if this is your first meeting with me, I'm Diane Ruth, and I speak mainly about shared home office spaces. My organizing journey started in middle school when my best friend, she would get in trouble often, and when she would get grounded, the only way that before being let out the house again, so to speak, her parents said, you know, you got to clean this room up because it became like a bit of a tornado kind of often. And what I did at that time was she convinced her parents to let me come and help her clean the room. So it was like we got to hang out at the same time. I loved it. I got a whole lot of practice on organizing the closet, different parts of the room, rearranging the room, like we did it all. And then eventually she was able to get back out and hang out with me and all of our other friends. So this was like an ongoing thing. Fast forward to me going to college for science. I worked in a lab at night for 7.5 years. And eventually that job had some turmoil, which they were doing some illegal insurance stuff or something. And because of like the uncertainty with the job, I decided to go ahead and start a side hustle. So with this new life of mine, like I'm 2 kids in at this point, organizing with 2 kids is totally different from having an organized home as a single person in their 20s or 30s. I had to relearn my old system, so to speak, in a new way. I couldn't figure out like how to keep the areas cleaned with the kids. Like it was like you clear it, you clean it, you organize it, and they destroy it in 2 minutes, right? So this was when I had my light bulb moment. Like I was doing the same, I was trying very different things, but getting the same results. And I was like, I really need to like treat this like an experiment to really dig down to like what the issue is with why I can't keep these spaces organized. And so I just started this discovery process, kind of like you do with a scientific experiment. And some things worked, some things didn't. Once I finally figured out why the clutter kept coming back for these individual spaces, this eventually led to me having a clear office space. Clutter around the house was no longer. I had a new vibe when I worked in my office. I felt like my business mattered. And it just brought a whole nother level out of me, being able to like work my side hustle. It was a side hustle at the time, work my side hustle in an office that looked beautiful, that didn't have shoes and kids' toys all over it and whatnot. So Sarah Cole, she's a parent coach. She watched a webinar on a similar topic that I'm going to discuss with you today. And she said, the most helpful part of your webinar turned out to be the questions to ask myself before I started organizing. Why stuff kept piling up was the key question for me. Once I figured that out, I grabbed some organizers from the basement and went to work. Now my space is tidy and clean and easy to keep that way so far. I'm the envy of everyone in the household. And I'm going to take you through these questions now. I want you all to be able to do the same thing, get these results in your house. Okay, so step 1, why these 5 questions allow you to organize anything in your home and help you end the cycle of returning clutter. Step 2, you'll be surprised when I show you the right way to find storage for your home, because there is a wrong way, and how to get your family members on board who are historically unorganized, even if you don't have great systems in place, okay? So the first step is having the 5 questions. These are very simple questions. This is the very first step in my Overwhelmed to Organized framework. If you don't ask these questions, you will never get to the bottom of why the clutter is there in the first place. So you want to start out with who's bringing the clutter to wherever the clutter is, right? What is the clutter? Is it a pencil? Is it a toy? Is it a pile of clothes? Where is the clutter ending up? Is it ending up at the front door? Is it ending up on the kitchen counter? And when does this happen? Does it happen when people are walking into the home? Does it happen after you come home from date night? Does it happen right before bed? Answering these questions will give you the why. Once you have the why, you can actually start solving this problem. Okay, you cannot effectively solve a problem without getting the facts and having an assessment. And so this is big or small. I mean, I'll give you an example. So say you have some mystery liquid all over the floor in the kitchen. What do? You go through this same process. Like, well, who was in the kitchen, right? Maybe nobody was in the kitchen. Maybe a child was just in the kitchen. What is this liquid? Is it actually water? Maybe you smell it. Maybe it's chemicals. I don't know, right? And when, like, how long ago did this happen? Let's say I was just cooking 50 minutes ago. So it was after that. And then where's the liquid? Is it by the fridge? Is it by the sink? Is it in the middle of the floor? You answering these questions will actually give you a better idea of why there's liquid on the floor. Maybe you investigate, open the cabinet, see the sink is leaking, or you realize, oh, my kid was just in there. He dumped a bottle of water all over the floor, whatever the case may be, right? So I'll give you an example of my first home office that I had when I first started side hustling. So like I mentioned, I was 2 children in at this point. The youngest boy in this picture, he was actually younger than that. But so the middle picture here is my home office at our kitchen, what I call command center. So this is like a counter space. with the like space to like tuck a chair underneath. It was the perfect place to like set up a small space. I just had like a small laptop, some paperwork because I was doing in-home organizing at the time, and just place for my notebooks. It was perfect, perfect spot, right? What I didn't think about was that this particular spot used to be where everybody put their dishes, cups, plates, forks, whatever, before it actually made it to the sink. This was the first place you'd walk into as like empty counter, like free for all type of a space to just dump stuff. And so after I put my office there, that did not stop, because these habits around us putting our plates, forks, bowls, whatever in that space were so ingrained at that point. Everybody still kept doing it regardless of me having my office set up there, right? And so ultimately with this particular challenge, I decided to move my office, and I'll talk about that in a little bit, to a better location. I decided I was not going to fight that particular habit, because there were plenty of other places that I could have put my office. So just a new way of thinking. All of the challenges clutter wise that you have, whether they're big or small, run down this quick 5-question assessment and then start to come up with a solution. And we'll talk about how to start those solution processes as well.